Hello, hello, ladies. Hi, this is Taylor Thompson, and we're coming live here in the members section. And I have my beautiful friend. Oh my gosh, Denise, I just get like your eyes are so beautiful. That is your color without question.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here looking at you going, wow, wow, wow. Okay. So distracted. Sorry, squirrel. Anyway, ladies, so you guys tuned in last week, or actually last month. Can you even believe it's been a month since you were on last time? Like, time flies when you're having fun, right? This is like the second part. This is part 2 of 3. And what she shared with us last time is really getting clear on your goals, really getting clear on what you want. And I will have to tell you, so I'm just going to give a little testimony for myself, right? If you don't mind, if I take a little time here. Like for me, I've had a couple of people say, like, Taylor, get clear. I'm like, okay, I am clear. I'm clear. I know what I want. I know what I want. But really, after going through the exercises, just me alone, and, I was able to really dive in deep. I was able to really dig down really deep on what it is that's really valuable to me, what it is that's really, really important to me. And I have to tell you, it was very meaningful, and it was very revealing to me. There was a lot of growth in that, because sometimes, you think you know what you want, but whenever you really start taking time with yourself and really keep digging and keep digging and digging, it's interesting. The answers are a little different than what you superficially or you surfacely think. Do you find that to be true with a lot of your students?
Absolutely. The power of creating the space to allow your dreams to bubble up and to allow yourself to hear yourself. We just don't do that in this busy, crazy, fast-paced world. And even if we're taking time to read or journal, we're not necessarily asking ourselves the right questions. And so to create that space to really hone in and listen in and not have the distractions is a really powerful thing.
Yeah. So, ladies, and if you haven't, as you're listening to this, if you have not listened to the first part of this training, do yourself a favor, go back and listen. Because it really does, and do the exercises, do the work. So I'm super excited about what's next here, because the emotional quotient, right?
Quotient, yes, your EQ is more important than your IQ.
Okay, that's EQ is more important than the IQ. Okay, so this is going to be fun. This is going to be getting my notepad out here, and I'm ready to roll. So I'm just going to let you take off and run. I'm just going to hide away and go over here and take some notes. So welcome, my beautiful friend here, Miss Denise Walsh. Thank you for being here.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for having me. Hi, you guys. Again, if you have not seen the previous training, then please go in and watch that, because they will layer on top of each other. I have been an entrepreneur now for over 13 years. And prior to that, I was a clinical psychologist. And so I love to take you through the exercises that you might not do on your own to help you become and blossom into the person God has created you to be. So these exercises and this presentation will layer on top of each other. What I'm teaching you through these 3 training sessions is what I call the Dream Life Pathway. And so last month, I guess the last time, we talked all about your head. And this is really clarity. This is clarity in what you want, but this is also mindset. We know that we are thinking, 70,000 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And it's powerfully important to capture the ones that are taking you in the direction you want to go. So we want to not only know what we want and gain that clarity, but we want to think about those things consistently every day so that those things become more prominent in our life. But here's what I know. You can think what you want, right? You can even say what you want. But if you don't truly believe what you want or step into the identity of what you want, then, you're not in alignment. And that's what we want to do today. We want to really focus in on the heart aspect of the dream life pathway. So head, heart, and then next week or next month, we'll be talking about feet, which is all about action. When you know what you want and you know why you want it, then the how starts to show up for you. So I'm going to review a little bit of what we did. Okay, I think it's sharing screen. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, I'm going to go over a little bit about what we did last time just to recap and then share with you exactly what we're going to do today. So here on this diagram is where you are now. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I asked you to rate your current here. Now, here doesn't have to be bad necessarily. It's not a good or bad situation. It's truly just an inventory with where you are now, so you know where you want to go. Oftentimes, I know that for me, here can just be comfortable. It doesn't mean it's bad, but it just means we're comfortable. We're often stagnant. We're often just like, all right, ready for our next step, but we might not quite know what that is yet. And that is what I'm here to help you figure out. We've got friendship, family, finances, health, hobbies, business, and giving back. And the exercises last week helped us to gain massive clarity in all 7 areas. And then we also connected it to our life purpose. Because when we know that this is where we want to be, I can tell you we don't hear the word no anymore in our business. We only see speed bumps instead of stop signs. And so this is just truly an inventory, right, on where you are right now. There is our next goal. So there is like a personal vision for yourself, a vision where you are so excited to get up in the morning and go pursue it. This is why clarity is super important, because you want to be so clear that it evokes emotion. Imagine what life would look like if you were debt-free. Really picture it. Picture it in your mind so clearly that you cannot wait to get up in the morning and go work your business to make it happen. The idea is that there is your vision of the future. But what's interesting is that if it were easy, right, then we would already be there. Oftentimes, something is holding us back. And that something is typically ourselves. So what about for you? What have been some things that have held you back in the past? Maybe you were here and you took a step and then you were like, I'm scared. I'm going to go back. Or maybe you were doing some things and you got blocked by lack of knowledge or skills. Or people started asking you things like, what are you doing? Are you leaving us? Why are you going over there? Why do you want to do a bodybuilding competition? Why do you want to write a book? Why do you want to start a business? There's so many things that can pop up in the midst of our journey that can derail us, distract us, and often demote us back to what's comfortable. So yeah, some of it is afraid of failing. Absolutely. So fear. Fear of success, which is true. It happens, you guys. People are like, what if it works? And then I'll be different. And then my friends will be different. And I'll have more money. And I won't have the same things to talk about or complain about. Or what if I lose the 50 pounds and now my friendships change because I don't want to be at the bar every Friday night? Success is interesting too, because success also means change. So fear of failure, fear of success, fear of feeling vulnerable, fear of what if it falls apart? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm embarrassed? All of these what if scenarios. What I find is that fear and or anxiety is truly uncertainty about the future, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And so oftentimes, because we are uncertain of the future and what that will really look like, it can keep us stuck here. Let's see what else we got. We've got guilt. Guilt is a huge baggage, really, because how many times have we done something and learned the hard way? I like to say guilt is really just means you didn't live up to your own expectation and you wish that you shoulda, coulda, woulda done something different, and you made, or that you wish you made a different choice. That emotion of guilt can be from something that was 3 years ago, but yet it's still impacting us today. Because if we're emotionally 3 steps behind, then we don't have the emotional freedom, the emotional quotient to see ourselves 3 steps ahead. And we're kind of living in the past. So anxiety is fear about the future, but this guilt and resentment and bitterness and anger is often fear, anger about the past. And so what we want to do today is we want to release that emotional baggage. We want to heal through some of that stuff so that we're no longer tethered to the what ifs of the past and the what ifs of the future. Let's see. So resentment is relationship issues. Somebody else is not living up to your expectations. They disappointed you. They betrayed you. They did something that you don't think a friend would do. And you're upset about that. And sometimes rightly so, right? We're not saying that any of this is good or bad, but what we're saying is that we get to heal. If we really want to go there, if we really want to hit our next goal, then we get to heal through this stuff, because the lighter we are, the faster we will get there. All right, what else we got? Bitterness, again, relationship stuff, especially if you're working within a team and you're combining business and relationships, friendships. There can be some mess within that. But I know for me, when I was working as a clinical psychologist, there was frustrations with coworkers. There was frustrations with bosses. I know pastors who go through these exercises because they feel like they're constantly giving to their congregation, And so the question truly isn't, is there a situation where relationship struggles don't exist? No, that's not typically true. The real issue and the real work is to be done so that way, even when there's relationship issues, we don't feel like we're tethered to them. Let's see, imposter syndrome. Oh yeah. Anyone? Yeah. I started my business, my side hustle that ended up retiring me from my clinical psychology job when I was 26 years old. And I remember thinking, no one's going to listen to me. I'm only 26 years old. And now I'm 39. And I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me. I'm too old. It's crazy how there's no sweet spot where we like finally are the one that knows everything or is like qualified to talk about stuff. Imposter syndrome is real. And no matter how old you are, what gender you are, what your occupation is, it's super easy to feel not qualified. And what I've learned, you guys, is that all of this stuff, the relationship stuff, the not good enough stuff, the fear stuff, the emotional roller coaster that we're on when we put ourselves out there and work our business, create and give and go for that next goal, is that all of this is just a part of the game, right? All of it is just a part of the game. You can be earning millions of dollars and still feel like an imposter. You can hit the tippity top of your company and still be unsure of how you got there. And so it really is just a matter of not taking this stuff too seriously, right? Understanding that this is just part of the game of life, and we don't need to own it as our own. The comparison game. Ooh, this one gets me so good when I'm watching too many people on social media. Amen. Too many people on social media. I'm looking at them. I'm comparing myself to them, and I'm no longer playing my own game. Has anybody ever experienced that? I know I have. We look left, we look right, and then, we need to stay focused on our own race. I actually learned this. This was really brought to my attention during the Olympics a few years ago when I think this is maybe Michael Phelps' season, and they were swimming a race. And I remember thinking, they're not looking at their competition. They're not looking left or right or trying to figure out how to beat the competition. They're just doing what they've practiced for years, right? They're in their own lane, focused on their own game, and they're doing what they have been doing for decades to practice and to run their race. They're not paying attention to what their competition is doing. And I think often when we see, when we're paying attention to what other people are doing, it's a reminder that we really need to pay attention to what we are doing and focus on our own race. All right. So jealousy, again, that happens when we're looking outside of ourselves. Often I find that jealousy means that someone else is making something a priority and we're not. So for example, if you see somebody super fit and you're 30 pounds overweight and you're jealous of them, that's a signal to yourself that you are not making it a priority. Your health is not a priority and you want it to be. I actually felt jealous when my friend started her podcast because I wanted to start a podcast and I didn't for years. I wanted to, and I put it off and I didn't think I knew what I was doing and it seemed too hard. And then my friend started one and I thought, what the freaking heck? And I remember talking to another friend about this saying, you know what, this means that I just need to stink and start my own, right? We get to use this emotion as a signal to ourselves and you really use it as feedback for what it is we truly want. But it can derail us if we let it. The how, the how, my friends, truly is skill building. You know, for me, when I was starting my podcast, I didn't know what microphone to buy. You know, I didn't know how to edit a podcast. I didn't know how to upload it and how to get it on all the channels. I had to learn that stuff. I had to Google, I had to research, I had to ask people. And so that how can keep us paralyzed until we learn it. But the cool thing is that everything is figure outable. Everything is learnable. Everything is, there's nothing that we can't learn. You know what I mean? There's YouTube now with like you tutorials on everything. So it truly is just up to us to figure it out, but it can feel hard. I often call this season from here to there. I think my next book might be called Steps in the Dark, because I will have a clear vision on what I want and where I want to go, but I might not know at all how to get there. But I just keep walking and I trust that the next step is going to come. The next step is going to come. I'll reach out and ask and collaborate with people and the next step will come. And then I pray and ask for the next step will come. But I feel like that darkness of kind of walking blind, especially if you've never done it before, is something that can absolutely derail us. Life trauma. Yeah, for sure. Childhood trauma, relationship, family stuff. I mean, again, that can keep us 3 steps behind and emotionally tethered to the past rather than emotionally free to focus on the future. Divorce. Again, relationship struggles. Goodness sakes, this life would be easy if it weren't for the people, huh? Relationship struggles, drama, just being in a life full of drama rather than a life filled with dreams. Addiction. If you've ever lived or known anyone with addiction, that's drama in your life. Even through this year, right? We've had major shutdowns since March. We've been home. Schools changed. I know for me, it took me into a place of drama, a place of confusion, a place of uncertainty. And I feel like as a collective, as a world, we're kind of going through a collective trauma. This situation this past year impacts us all in different ways, yet we're all impacted. And so the cool thing about that is we now get to have a collective healing where we work through this stuff together so we can come out on the other side. Because guess what? All the stuff that can derail us, the emotions, the drama, the relationships, the guilt, the resentment, the not feeling good enough, the fear, all of that stuff happens to me, happens to Taylor, happens to Ed Milet, happens to Rachel Hollis, happens to all of us. The question is are we going to allow it to shrink us back to where we feel comfortable, or are we going to grow ourselves and create such a clear vision of where we want to go that we keep taking steps along the way? So, all right, here is the cool part. The dream life pathway means that we have clarity on what we want. We set that internal GPS, and then we're thinking about it consistently. We're retraining our brain. We're like taking those fear thoughts and throwing them away. Any thoughts of insecurity, we're throwing them away because that's not of God. God is not a God of confusion, right? So if there's any confusion or anxiety, we can peel that away and truly focus on what it is we want instead. Today, we're going to focus on your heart, which means that dream, right? That dream is not just, you don't just say, oh, that'd be cool. It's like you believe it with all of your being. You believe it with all of your being. Because I liken this part of the dream life pathway to like Care Bear staring. Do you guys remember Care Bear staring, where it's like, Care Bear stare? And it's emoting off of them, and they're defeating evil by Care Bear staring. And that's kind of what we get to do with our heart. When our heart is free and in the right space and in alignment with our dreams, when we fully believe and step into our next goal as if it's already done, our heart is emoting that belief into the world. And that is part of what brings the how, right, to our next step to fruition, because we are emoting that. So lesson 2, belief is queen. Belief is queen. We have to know that we 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 know that this is what we're meant to do, which is why last week we did the our life purpose statement. We really gained clarity on what it is that God has for us. We did a meditation where we opened up a box and we got a gift about what our life purpose here on earth is. We don't have to figure out our life purpose. We just have to discover it. We just have to get quiet enough to hear it, because we already know on a deep level. We already know. So our job here is just to allow it to bubble up. So let's talk a little bit about how we get there. These are some things that we did last time that you can continue to do as you're getting clear. I'll share a bit about my story here. We hit in 2013, they announced Black Diamond in our company, which means that we earn $100,000 a month, 6 consecutive months in a row. Yeah, in commissions. That was the goal. And my husband and I, we were like, we are going Black Diamond. We are going to hit this goal. And we were so excited about it. We knew what we wanted. But in 2013, this was years ago, I would say what I wanted, you guys. I was saying all the right things, and I was even doing all of the right things. But my heart started saying things like, what if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't happen? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm not sure, how embarrassing would it be if it doesn't really happen? And I started allowing some of those thoughts to come in. And I would say, wouldn't it be so funny if we lost that goal by just a few $1,000s? Wouldn't that be so funny? Well, needless to say, we hit 4 months of the $100,000 in commission goal under our belt. And then at month 5, I got a call from our CEO who said, Denise, you did not make it. You did not make this, the month 5. And remember, it was a 6-month goal because of just a few $1,000s. And I remember feeling crushed. I mean, at this point, you guys, it's not about the income. It's about the stinking goal, right? I wanted to hit it. I had set out for myself, and then we didn't. And I remember feeling like, oh, I did it to myself. I did it to myself because I had been thinking that all month long. What if we don't make it? How embarrassing would that be? What if we miss it by a few $1,000s? I had not learned to retrain my brain. I had not learned to focus on what I wanted. I was just kind of allowing it to happen. And guess what? We didn't make it. And so in 2014, I said to myself, well, it's going to happen. I was kind of mad. Have you guys ever worked for a goal and then like didn't happen? And then you just got mad about it, like bitter. That's where I was. I was emotionally like hardened. And I said, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Well, we'll see. And so I said the right things, you guys. This is why it's so important, because I said the right things. I did the work, but my belief wasn't there. And I would say things like, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I was afraid to put myself out there again because I didn't want to fail again, right? So in 2014, it didn't happen again. So 2015 came and I said, all right, if I'm actually going to hit this goal, like I got to do something different. I cannot expect different results by doing the same thing. So I had to do something different. And so what we did is we planned a party in August of 2015. It was called the Come As You Will Be Party. And we pretended like it was the year 2025. We came dressed as if it was the year 2025. We talked all about what we had accomplished over the last 10 years. People came with their dream houses on their phone and they were like, let me show you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. There was people that had babies on their hips. Some had written books. I had a TED Talk thing around my neck saying, I just came from my TED Talk. It was so fun. And we talked about all of this, right? As if it was already done. So to prepare for this party, I took my team through these exercises. And again, these are some of the things we did last time. The question of what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? 30 things you want to be, do, and have, creating your dream day in detail. And we got so stinking clear about where we were going that we became emotionally connected to it. We became excited about it. I was talking about Black Diamond all year, like it had already happened. By the time we hit this goal, I was like already like, thank you for finally catching up with me, right? Like I was so stinking excited. And then I pictured the results. This time, instead of allowing those fear thoughts to consume me or to pop up or to, for me to just, to entertain them at all, I would take them captive. I would toss them aside and I would focus on what I wanted. So this time I said 103, 103, 103, 103, 103, 103, 103. This is what I need. This is what I need. 103, 103, 103. We had 4 months under our belt. 103, 103, 103, 103, 103. And anytime a fear-based thought would come, I would go 103, 103, 103. And let me tell you, the fear was still there. It didn't go away ever. It was always just a bit there, but I did not put my attention on it anymore. I focused on what I wanted. And at month 5, we were at this party, which I think is so stinking cool. We were at this party because, and like, we didn't plan the party knowing when checks would be announced. We didn't plan the party knowing when things, it happened to be the Willow Creek Leadership Summit and they were on that weekend. Anyway, we were at that party and I got a text from our CEO that said, Denise, you hit month 5. And it was 1025. And then I immediately went, whoa, that's a little too close. So then the whole next month I went 113, 113, 113, 113. And anytime fear came up, I would go 113, 113, 113, 113. I made what I wanted so much bigger than than the fear. That what I wanted started to create momentum. And we hit month 6 at like 131, something crazy. So not only did I become clear, right? But I emotionally like Care Bear stared it out into the world. I stepped into that goal and that identity before I even saw it in my physical reality. And because I was picturing it, I was picturing my CEO telling me that we hit the goal. I was picturing celebrating it with our team. I was picturing the success so clearly that that's what became loud, and it triggered my reticular activating system. So my reticular activating system, we all have one. It's a little piece of the brain right here. And what it does is it filters your world based on what you believe it's important. So an example of this is if you're pregnant, right? All of a sudden you start seeing pregnant people everywhere. Or you're looking for a new car. You go test driving, a Jeep, and all of a sudden you see Jeeps everywhere. The reality is those things have always been there, but your brain didn't notice it until it deemed it important. And how does it deem what's important to you? By what you're thinking about. When we say you become what you think about, it is not just a cool sign to put on a school wall. You truly do become what you think about, because your world will start to shift and see those experiences in your life. The how starts to show up for you when you know what you want and you know why you want it. So belief is queen. We are going to emotionally connect with what it is you want. Now, a couple things here. If you are creating a dream board and your dream board makes you feel anxious. So for example, let's say you live in an apartment and you have a mansion on your dream board and it seems like a really big jump. And maybe you look at your dream board and you go, yeah, right. Or maybe you look at your dream board and you're like, that will never happen, or we'll see, Then you can do one of two things. You can grow your belief to match your dream, or you can change your goal to be one you truly emotionally connect with. Either one is fine. For me, I had to grow my belief because there was not another goal that I could hit. I had already reached ambassador. I was already there. So I had to grow my belief. I had to grow my identity to step into the goal that I had for myself. Belief is queen. Emotionally connect with what it is you want, which means you're shifting your identity to match what you want next. Now, a couple things we're going to do to help us kind of heal through some of the tethers from the past that may be holding you back. We're going to write 2 different letters, and I'll give some space for you to write them here, but I know you may want to pause or come back or spend time 10, 15 minutes doing this in a quiet space with candles and music and all of that kind of stuff. But what I know is that this exercise is one of the most healing. And I don't necessarily expect it to be a flip of the switch, but what I do think is it'll be an onion layer, where you can shake off one of those emotional onion layers that you've been maybe holding on to, and you're ready to release. I liken this to if you're going down a hill in a car and you have the emergency brake on. You can try harder, right? You can do it more. You can take more action, or you can release the emergency brake. And when we forgive ourselves or others and we let go and heal through some of those emotional attachments, we're releasing the brake. We're releasing the brake, and you're going to go down that hill with much more ease, much more speed, and it's going to feel so much more connection with you because you're not trying to fight the emotions that are holding you back. So if you have a pen and paper, what I'd like for you to do is to write down these questions. And the first one we're going to do is called guilt. Really, it's really for a should that you feel like you violated. An expectation that you feel like you violated. Maybe you lied or told a mistruth or talked behind someone's back, or something that you feel like you messed up. I've done this before. When I wrote this letter, oh goodness. So I have 4 books on Amazon, and 3 of them are in my Dream Life series. And you can see the blue and the yellow are journals. And then the one over here is the main workbook called Design Your Dream Life, where I teach all of these principles and give a slew of exercises that you can do to help you heal through and really align your dream life pathway. Well, the book came out a year after expected. Like, I wrote it, I got it edited, I got it designed, and then I had to redo the entire thing. $15,000 to the designer, I had to redo. I cried my eyes out. I felt all of those feelings of insecurity. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. How did I mess up so bad? Like all of this stuff just came flooding in. Should I just give up? But because I know this stuff, I was like, dang it all, just be a good story one day. And I had to go figure out how to redo it. And so we found a new editor, we found a new designer who actually knew what they were doing. And we were able to get it out within 3 months of that year long of I thought it would be done and it's not done and all these things. But it was totally crushing. And so I wrote this letter to myself. And I'll show you these questions so you can write them down. So what expectation did I violate or live up to or fail to live up to? So for me, in this particular example, I thought that I should know how to get a book published. I should know how to do this. My expectation was that I would, I should know how to get this done. What is unrealistic about this expectation? In my example, I've never done this before. We did have one other book out on Amazon, Retire Your Husband. But we had an assistant who basically did all of that. It wasn't me. And so, I wasn't able to learn through that experience. So yeah, I didn't know. So the underlying assumption or belief, what was the underlying assumption or belief that it's the core of this expectation? For me, it was, I should know something that I've never done before. That was, we just kind of have these high expectations of ourselves. And then we get to give ourselves grace and write these letters to heal through it. So can I change my past behavior? No, I can't. I can't change it. I can't take it back. I can't redo it. I can't, any of it, right? So how can we get rid of this guilt? So I want you to write down these questions right now and then create a space for you to write your own letter. What expectation did you violate or fail to live up to? What do you feel like maybe is not realistic? Maybe you have an unrealistic expectation that we get to change. And so how do you get rid of this guilt? We are going to change our language about what happened. So I now, when I start to feel upset about maybe how that book, the length of time, or I wish this would have happened, all of the things that we can do to stew on our own stuff, is I now get to say, I did the best that I could with the information I had at that time. I didn't know. You don't know until you know, right? Now that I know better, I will do better. The lesson I learned throughout this experience was, now I can put a book out in 3 months because now I know how, So then the other 2 journals were fast. My next book will be Steps in the Dark. And hopefully that once it's written, it'll be fast because I'll know what to do. And I now have a team that I'm working with. The lesson will help me in the future and so the idea here, you guys, is that we give ourselves grace. We learn through the mistakes, the lessons, right? And we grow through them. We don't stay stuck in that stewing, but we grow through it. So I'm going to give you a minute to write this down. And of course, in a workshop, I would give you the chance to write it and then read it to a partner, because there's power in writing. There's also power in speaking it out loud. So if you have anything that bubbles up for you about this idea of self-forgiveness, this idea of letting go and releasing guilt, then what I'd love for you to do is to find a partner to read it to. Maybe even read it to yourself in a mirror. Allow yourself to say those words out loud, to forgive yourself, and to feel that like transformational power, that onion leaf, that's not a leaf, onion layer that just starts to peel off. All right. And then there's one extra part of this. So here's how the letter would go. Dear me, I am angry that I feel like I made mistakes that impacted myself and others, because you're just sharing it. You're just getting it off your chest. I'm afraid that, I'm sorry that, and then you can end with this new declaration. It truly, truly is powerful when you take the time to go through this on your own. I am going to pull up the next one here too. I'll give you a minute to write that down. All right. So there's a lot of things, right, that we could probably write. Maybe you'll have to write a couple letters. Maybe you're feeling good and you're like, you know what, at this point, there's nothing that I'm holding on to that I wish I had done differently. Wherever you are, own it, right? Just be there and work through it and go for it. This next one may hit more of us a bit more deeply. And this is when we have a resentment, bitterness that creeps in, relationship struggles that we continue to stew on. So an example for me with this is that my assistant worked with us for 7 years and was basically our right-hand man. Really worked with us with planning events, worked with us with generating leads, following up with leads, working with our team, like an extension of us. And after we hit Black Diamond, we were just kind of like we were just resting for a minute, right? We were just like, let me take a nap for a minute. We were tired. Needless to say, throughout that time, she got a call from one of my friends who said, hey, I need some extra help. Would you mind helping me? And so unbeknownst to my husband and I, our assistant started helping our friend. And I found out, months later that this relationship had started and that they started working together, which on the surface doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But for me, it was two of my friends who started becoming best. This is like my mind, right? They like ditched me and became their own best friend. My assistant left me for my friend. My friend stole her. Those are some of the words that were brewing for me. And I really had a hard time. I felt betrayed. I couldn't go to events. I was upset. I felt left. I felt ditched. It was like on the surface, I knew that they weren't meaning to be hurtful. But betrayal is a real feeling. Grief is a real feeling. I felt like I lost those relationships and they were very important to me. And so, it was like a soul hurt. It was like a real grief. And so when I wrote this letter to them, myself, I don't know that you need to always give it to them. If you feel like you do, then you can. But for me, I really just had to work through it on my own because nothing else could necessarily change. And working through this letter again and again, it's not always, again, just one time. It really is anytime it stirs up, you refer back to your letter, you refer back to your new declaration, and you work to create a new neural pathway. I was staying up at night stewing about how rude this was. I was staying up at night, couldn't sleep, feeling anxious, all of this kind of stuff. It impacted, right? It derailed me. It totally did. And so if you have a relationship that has felt like a betrayal to you, maybe a mom or a dad or a friend who did something that does not live up to your expectation, then this letter will be helpful to you as well. So bitterness or resentment is when someone else violates your expectation. So you can see number one in this letter is, what expectation did someone violate or fail to live up to? Again, maybe a mom wasn't there like you expected, or your husband, or, for me, I'm like, friends don't do that. That was super rude. Friends don't steal your assistant. Friends don't do that. So the expectation was that there was lack of communication and lack of respect. What's unrealistic about that expectation? Well, maybe that's not an expectation that they had. Maybe they didn't see it the same way I did. Yeah. Lack of communication. I'm often wondering, what would it look like if they had actually just said something at the beginning? Yeah. And then, who knows how that would have impacted my emotions. But what's unrealistic about that expectation is maybe that's not their view of friendship. What's the underlying assumption or belief that's at the core of that expectation? There was a assumption of what friends do for me, what friends do. Friends don't do that you broke a friendship oath, kind of, right? Can you change their past behavior? No, nothing can be done. We can't go back and fix it or change it. So how do we get rid of this resentment? So think about this for you. Think about a person or a situation that you stew on sometimes. Maybe you can't go to sleep, or maybe you're wrestling throughout the night, or you see someone and it's triggering to you. Again, these are all signs to ourselves that we get to heal. Because at the end of the day, if nobody has control over my emotions except for me, I'm the one that's allowing that to happen. So I got to take that ownership back. So how do I get rid of this resentment? I have a new declaration. They did the best that they could with the information they had at that time. I know my friend. I know she's super impulsive. I know she doesn't think things through. I know that she just thought of my assistant and went, ooh, she'd be good, and reached out. I know that. Does that make it less hurtful? No, it's still hurtful. But I know that it wasn't a malice type of experience, right? She didn't know what she didn't know, meaning she might not have realized how hurt I would have felt. And honestly, I would not have done the same in the situation. You could say that if that's true. I don't think I could do that. I'm much nicer. The lesson that I learned throughout this experience was, now that I know, I can make a different choice in regard to you. So I used this first one and this last one for my own experience. She did the best with the information she could with the information she had at that time. And now that I know, I can make a different choice in regards to her, meaning we can now have a business relationship. We don't need to be best friends anymore. Trust has been broken, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily kicked out of my life. It could say there's a barrier, there's a boundary now, and this isn't working for me. But I make that choice. I have the ability to make that choice regarding our relationship. And so I feel like when you write these letters and you allow these emotions to bubble up and you heal through, this is like an onion layer falling off, you get to take 100% of your emotions again. You get to say, knowing what I know, these are the choices I'm going to make to protect myself and to, live in the world of dreams and not the world of drama. Because if someone else has the ability to trigger you and pull you and derail you as much as these experiences did for me, then we're consistently going to be on this roller coaster. The way that we that we get off the roller coaster is to take 100% responsibility for ourselves, our thoughts, and our emotions. And that, again, that doesn't mean that nobody's going to hurt us anymore or that we're not going to have emotions. It just means we would take responsibility for them, which means we heal through them, we listen to them, and we honor them, and we let them go. So you can see in this last one, it says, "Dear blank, it hurt me when I am angry with you because I am afraid that I wish you had done this differently." You really can purge it. You can say, "Dude, this was super rude. Wish you would have been more considerate. I wish you would have talked to me first. I wish. But you didn't. You didn't. You did the best information with the information, you didn't. And so now we're in this situation, and now here's what I'm going to do." And what I think this does, my friends, is this truly does give us our power back. They often say that forgiveness is not for the other person. Really, it's truly for you to gain and to gain your power back and to feel that sense of freedom. Remember, anxiety is when you have fear of the future, but this bitterness, resentment is when you have tethers to the past, and we want to heal through them all. When you are emotionally free, then you can emotionally connect to what it is you want next and create a personal vision for yourself that is so powerful. You can't wait to get up in the morning to go make it happen. As I said at the beginning of this, your EQ is more important than your IQ, right? You don't have to be the smartest crayon in the box to make your dreams come true, to hit the top of your company, to write books, to impact people, to be the best salesperson, whatever your current goal is, to lose the 50 pounds, to run a marathon. You just get to stay motivated by keeping your personal vision strong and your emotional tethers clear. When you do that, and your head and your heart and your feet are in alignment, magic seems to happen. So again, your head is clarity, 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 clarity. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? Oftentimes when people feel stuck, it's because they don't know what they want next. They got to create a goal that they can emotionally connect with, so then they can be excited to go get it. The second piece is that identity, emotional connection to that goal, and free yourself from anything that's tethering you to the past or to the future. And then in our next training, we are going to talk all about feet, which is about action, skill building, time management, doing the things that are going to help you reach your goal. And when you're in alignment, my friends, game over. You've already won.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I took so many notes. I know that Tina was on here. So Tina's excited. So you have to she's already like, oh my gosh, I have to have her on my show. So I need her books. I'm like, yeah, this is really, really great. And it's so deep. And it's one of those things do you find because you work with a lot of women, you have a large team, probably the hardest challenge is always dealing with people and personalities, right? And so I would think that this exercise and learning this skill, exactly what you shared right here, is so valuable for anybody that's working in a leadership role or is leading a team of people, because, sometimes it's kind of lonely at the top, right? And we have to always lead by example. Do you find that to be can you tell a little bit about that maybe?
Oftentimes when I'm working with people who are feeling frustrated, or especially leaders, there's several things that may be going on, but what I have found, the thing that takes them out of the game the most is relationship struggles within their organization, either with their upline or with their downline, and taking things personally or feeling like there's trust that has been broken. Those types of things truly can impact the culture of the team, and it can take people out no matter how much they're making.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why individually we really have to hone in on these skills, because we don't want someone else to have that power.
Yeah, it's such a, that's why I'm like, to me, this kind of training is very invaluable, especially if you are planning to, if you're planning to be able to hone on these kind of skills, because people, personalities, can always derail you. And you made a really good point, and I've seen it myself multiplicity of times. It doesn't matter how much money you're making, that right there, and can really just push somebody completely out of the game. And what's so sad is that they don't have the capacity, or they haven't built the muscle to be able to navigate through that they give people so much power over how they feel, whenever it's really not necessary. If they just learn how to use these coping skills. And so many times that probably one of the biggest things for me is the lesson I learned from Larry long ago is that you make the mistake that people think like you. And because how many times have we said, like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. Oh my God, oh my gosh, I would never say that. I would never treat her that way. And so we have those conversations with ourselves. And so I love how you wrote the letter out like that, and really that word you use, like onion it away, or like layer it away,
Well, what we do then too is then we judge ourselves for having the emotions. And I mean, when I was going through my own, I certainly had different upsets throughout the team, but I was able to work through them and just know that, we're in different places, and that's okay. But this one hit really close to home. And so it took me 2 years to heal through it, because I felt so hurt. And grief is real. So the first year I was like, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's totally fine. And I would beat myself up for feeling this way. I would feel guilty for, more guilt for feeling this way. And finally, I just had to say, no, I feel this way. This hurt my feelings. Like, this was really rude. And I just had to honor it. Yeah. And I think that in doing that, and then writing the letter and not trying to stuff it down and saying it didn't bother me, and not trying to say, well, I just have to fix myself. I had to really just say, this is real, and I can grieve it, and I can grieve the loss of these friendships, but it doesn't have to own me. And I can do a lot of that work on my own without even needing to necessarily bring them into it.
It's such I think this kind of thing is such a skill, a skill to have in your briefcase. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't always want to do this work. Mm-hmm. They don't want to do this because it's not fun necessarily. And the thing about it is that if they would really kind of do this work, it's almost like I call it, because it's kind of like you want to put it on the back burner, you want to put, like, procrastinate it. But whenever if you don't, what you said is so important, if you don't honor those emotions and you try to bury that live emotion, I mean, I've had so many conversations with people that end up, because it manifests in our body like dis-ease. Mm-hmm. Because we've buried some sort of bitterness or hurt or pain or grief, betrayal, all of those things, and your body hangs on to it, and it can manifest into a health challenge.
And it doesn't go away on its own, unfortunately. No. I mean, I think that's the thing. You're like, well, I'll just get over it. Oh, time will pass. But we really do need to work through it, because that's why you could be hanging on to something that has nothing to do with your business, and
Yeah.
it's still impacting your business because you're emotionally 3 steps behind.
Yeah.
So this work now in my workshops, this is the session that provides the most breakthrough, because it creates the space to do the hard stuff that we don't necessarily want to do on our own.
I love this. And so I would I know whenever as we go through this, like, this would be a great, I would love to be able to do like a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
and do have this kind of, these kind of sessions, and, bring the ladies in and like do real stuff, like this kind of work.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It's so powerful. It is. It's so fun. You leave changed, you really do. And it's because you really have changed at a cellular level.
Yeah.
When you speak out loud, it reverberates throughout your entire body and can shift you at a cellular level. And so these exercises, again, are powerfully important, and they're not just like a cool thing to do. It really can shift you from the inside out, and you can shed that layer and become new again.
I love that, shed that layer. That's such a great visual. I think in word pictures, and I got that verbal picture, and I can see that. That's such a, it's something like we need to do like on a daily, shed, slough it off.
And you think of mom guilt, you think of all the ways that we feel like we're not living up to our own expectation.
Yeah.
And these might be exercises to do on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Denise, thank you so much. Such value. Gosh, your team is so blessed to have you. It's such wisdom, and love the input. Love it. Very nice. So,
well, thank you so much for having me.
And okay. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help you or serve you and your team, please always know the door's open. I'll be happy to serve in any way, shape, or fashion. Hope you know that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, doll. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Good night.